Welcome Kate McLeod, a strategic analyst with us today to discuss the current position of Tim Hortons and to give our overall recommendations for continuing future success.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Why don't we begin by explaining the company's organizational strategies throughout their product lifecycle?
Well, when Tim Hortons opened in 1964, they were in the introductory phase of the product lifecycle. And until 1995, they were moving pretty slowly in this phase. And their main strategy was getting out there in the community and expressing their brand, building brand recognition among consumers, and creating things like the Tim Hortons Children's Foundation. And it wasn't until 1995 where they entered the growth phase of the product lifecycle. And during this time is when they merged with Wendy's International. And from 1995 until 2006, the company expanded from 500 locations to over 3,000 locations, meaning that they really used the expertise and knowledge of Wendy's to help them grow their brand and expand nationally. Now, by 2009, the company was starting to reach the end of the growth cycle, middle to end of the growth cycle, and they needed some new changes to the restaurants. So they started to change the menu, and they brought on Cold Stone Creameries, which was a relationship that lasted 5 years and just ended earlier this year. Now, in 2014, they needed a real change in their product lifecycle as they were starting to enter maturity. So with that came the merger with Burger King that happened in August of this year. And that will really help them expand globally and to not be so scared off by the maturity phase, to really able to expand operations.
So how would you classify the external threats of the organization and the impact on company success?
Well, in terms of rivalry, it's pretty high. There are a lot of other quick service restaurants out there, such as McDonald's, Starbucks, and Subway. But Tim Hortons has captured 80% of the $3 billion away-from-home coffee market, with 67% of Canadians drinking coffee every day. So in terms of Canada, the rivalry for Tim Hortons is not as high, but when you're looking at the United States market, there's much more competition for the company. Now, in terms of threat of new entrants, it's pretty low. There's lots of barriers to entry for this market, such as the capital required, a steep learning curve, an already pretty much saturated market, as well as a strong brand attachment that customers have with current restaurant locations. Substitute products, the threat of substitute products is pretty low, especially for coffee drinkers. There's not really another substitute to coffee. In terms of buyer power, that's also low. There's many customers for Tim Hortons products, and although trends and demographics impact what happens with the restaurant, they don't necessarily create buyers to have a strong level of power. And then supplier power was also be low. Tim Hortons has a lot of their own manufacturing facilities, and they also have a number of third-party producers that if something happens with one supplier, third-party suppliers, if something happens with one supplier, then they have other suppliers that they can fall back on.
What would you say are the main internal strengths and weaknesses and the external opportunities and threats of Tim Hortons?
Well, in terms of strengths, Tim Hortons, like I mentioned, has a very strong brand attachment among its customers, strong brand loyalty, and it's almost like you would say it's connected to the Canadian national identity. They have a great training facility, and they also have the value proposition of being always fresh and being healthier and in some cases cheaper than their competition. In terms of weaknesses, they have a strong connection to the Canadian consumer, which can be a weakness when you want to expand into other markets. In terms of threats, operations like McDonald's and Starbucks have been expanding recently, and other quick service restaurants have been taking advantage of the breakfast menu, which is cutting directly into Tim Hortons' busy time. McDonald's, for example, recently expanded their McCafe operations by over $1 billion. In terms of opportunities, like I said, there's a great opportunity to expand into the U.S. market. There's also a number of opportunities that could exist with offering new menu items, new menu combinations, as well as the Burger King merger, which is a great opportunity for them to be able to expand more globally.
What are the company's main strategies in moving forward?
Well, according to their strategic plan, for the 5-year strategic plan that was developed in 2013, they're looking at 3 main markets moving forward: the Canadian market, the U.S. market, and the international market. So in terms of the Canadian market, their strategy is lead, defend, and grow. So what they want to do is pretty much defend this market, defend their core customers through creating better customer service operations, being more innovative, creating new menu items, narrowing the check gap, meaning getting more money out of each customer that walks through the door, as well as opening 500 new stores by 2018. In terms of the U.S. market, their strategy is it's a must-win battle. So they're doing this. They plan on opening 300 locations by 2018, and they're also planning on creating new beverages, new snacks, new combinations that cater directly to a different U.S. customer that they're not used to compared to the Canadian customer, as well as leveraging technology in order to market and meet these different demands and needs. And then for international, the plan is to grow, learn, and expand. So there is a plan right now to open 220 new locations in the Gulf Cooperation Council by 2018.
To ensure your future success of Tim Hortons, are there any recommendations you can make?
I would recommend 3 main strategies. So number 1, I would recommend an extensive market research plan. They need to really get out there and see what their customers want, what different products they're liking, what products are doing well, not so well, what are changes to the menu that can make, what are changes in technology. That would probably take about 6 to 8 months. After that is done, they need to develop a differentiated marketing strategy. So advertising to the Canadian consumer, and then a different marketing strategy that would advertise to the U.S. consumer, just to really get out there and show the U.S. consumer that they're not just a Canadian company. And that would hope to be underway throughout 2014 and be launched by the 4th quarter of 2015. And then finally, I recommend that they open a U.S. training facility like the one in Canada, the Tim Hortons University, where they can really get U.S. managers and U.S. franchise owners together to share their ideas and to share the different challenges and different successes that they have in managing Tim Hortons in the United States market. So that's it.
Well, thank you for your insight tonight, Caitlin.
Thank you.
Don't forget to join us next week when one of Tim Hortons' competitors, Starbucks, will be discussed and analyzed.